Good morning. Welcome to Morning Moments. I'm so glad that you took the time to come on whatever platform you're watching this on today. And thank you so much. I have from North Carolina a speaker, a teacher, a author, and on her Facebook page she actually says part of her description nut. And anybody that says a nut as part of their description, I got to have them on. Kris Swiatocho, welcome to Morning Moments.
Yay, I'm so glad to be here. It is the morning still, isn't it? Yes.
Yes. Well, welcome. And we've had such a delightful time getting to know each other and talking to each other and talk about mutual friends that we have. Could you please tell me, what do you do and why do you do it?
Oh my goodness, what a loaded question. I'm a speaker and a teacher of the Word of God. And I get to travel all over the world and getting to teach and encourage people. I primarily focus on women and single adults, although I have spoken to all audiences. Occasionally a pastor lets me in the pulpit, and so I'm very thankful for when that happens. But I would say the majority of what I've done over the last 20 years full time has been singles and women. And I just absolutely love it. And I told you earlier that I love to teach the word with humor, because I'll tell you, Andy, the things that happen to me only, like, I can't even write this stuff.
No.
And so, it's way more fun to hear the word of God when you can relate to the person speaking, and you can go, that's happened to me too.
Yeah, and if we stop and look around and not be so serious all the time, we'll really enjoy what we're seeing about ourselves too. Don't take yourself too seriously.
Yep. It's funny. Every week I do live Facebook on Sunday nights, and every week I wait and see what God is going to give me to teach that week. Because to be like Friday, Saturday morning, I'm like, Lord, okay, I'm teaching Sunday night. I don't have anything. I mean, I can just open up the Bible and, do that famous point and hopefully something will show up. And I'm like, but I really want it to be a story. I want something to happen. So then I'm nervous because what's going to happen? That's going to be crazy. So I tell you a funny story that happened this past Saturday. That's just nuts. So this Saturday, I do a big retreat every year called Labor Day Singles, LaborDaySingles.org. It's a big singles retreat that originally was owned by Lifeway, and I took it over many years ago. And it's run by singles. What a concept. And so we do fundraisers to raise and offset expenses to help those that want to come that maybe can't come. And we get people from all over the country that come to this thing. So this past Saturday, I decided to have a rock painting party. And you're probably going, what is a rock painting party? You paint rocks, and some look really pretty and some look like a 2-year-old did them, a variety. And we auction them off at our retreat this year, just again to raise support. Plus we had fellowship and we laughed and we got together. So we decided at the end of the rock painting party to have a bonfire. And my neighbor had put a bunch of old limbs that she had a tree cut down, and she put all of the limbs beside the fire pit. And I'm not a fire pit expert, I mean, I can burn some stuff, but it's kind of not my specialty. And so this pile was put by the guys who cut the tree down. So imagine it's like 4 or 5 feet high, and they've been there for months because I hadn't had a bonfire since last fall. And so I started to burn, I started the bonfire and didn't see the leaves that were all within that extra pile. Lots and lots of leaves. And I have about 15 people there, and they're all over there talking and, finishing painting their rocks. And I'm sitting there burning the fire, and it's growing, and all of a sudden it's burning the other pile, and all of a sudden the leaves, and you just kind of go through that moment and go, I think I messed up. I don't know what to do. And I said, hey, can I get some help? And a couple of people said, yeah, what do you need? And they went and got a little pitcher of water, and we threw it on. It was like spitting on a blaze. Like, I think I need another bucket. And they went and got another one. And I go, can we get a hose? And then next thing I know, I'm like, can I get some help? And we came this close to dialing 911. And what was amazing was I'm a little bit like worried, because once it gets to the next pile, it's going to get to the wood pile, and then it's going to be 12 feet high. And then it could actually catch a house on fire. But all of these people jumped up, One went and got a hose. One went and got a neighbor's extra hose. One went and got a rake. One went and got a shovel. Everybody started helping. People were going in my house, filling up buckets and bowls and going under my cabinet and getting pictures. And everybody jumped in and put out the fire, at least contained it. And about that time, a guy showed up who's a fire expert and said, Kris, I'll take care of it. I said, hey, man, we put it out. I guess no bonfire tonight. He said, no, I got it. And he went over there. And I tell you, Andy, there was just enough of a spark and just enough of some smoke that he was able to take some tools and restart the fire and build it correctly and burn. And we had a bonfire that night. And I said, Lord, what is it that you're teaching me here? Well, that's kind of like ministry, similar. We can start off, we're doing good, right? It's kind of me, it's my ministry, it's my thing. And then we have some problems, people. Ministry would be great if it weren't for people, right? And then people come along, and then for there's stuff that's going on that shouldn't go on, and divisiveness and egos and whatever, and it kind of gets out of hand. But I want to build the bonfire. I still want to build the ministry, but it's getting out of hand. There's things happening. And so I in and helped. They all had different gifts, Andy, all different backgrounds and experiences and ways of looking at it. And one said, I'll rake the leaves away. And one says, well, I'll use a blower to blow the leaves away. And one person said, well, I'm going to get a water hose and we'll just, this pouring a pitcher on it is not really going to do it. And we were able to resolve it. But yet at the same time, God brought somebody along who knew a little bit more than me, who was able to really start the bonfire. And I look at it like he was able to really restart the ministry. And he had gifts and talents that I didn't have. And so I had to step back, Andy.
Yeah.
I had to step back and let him lead it. And I thought, Lord, I love that you give me these things. You show me these things, because if I just read the Bible and I just read, okay, the disciples were Jesus's team. Yeah, but I bet you, Andy, they had a few bonfires too. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's the fires of life that we go through that brings out the best of us. Yeah. And if it wasn't for the fires, we wouldn't know what talents there's hidden from us. Yeah. And sometimes in the worst times of our life, God says, now I've got you. So you've got to work together. There's only one way to do it. Work together. Yep. And when we see those troubles and trials and fires of life, it's nice they come for a reason.
Right. Well, we couldn't have, the goal was the bonfire, like in ministry. Our goal is to build a church or build a ministry to help people, to minister, to love them, whatever. The fire was to keep us warm. That's why we do a bonfire, is to gather us. But when the fire was out of hand, nobody wanted to be gathered. Nobody wanted to sit around it. We were worried. There was concern. And what was neat was exactly what you said. All of a sudden, we saw the gifts and talents of different people, who was listening, who reacted, who jumped up. But this is what I loved, Andy. In a normal ministry, or I would say a typical ministry, sometimes when we're in a crisis, or maybe it's a family situation, maybe it's your marriage or your kids, we're in a crisis situation, it brings out the worst.
Right.
That's when you realize how far you really are with God. Are you really trusting God, or are you only trusting God when things are good? And what was neat is that everybody was still smiling in the middle of this crisis. Everybody was kind of laughing and it was kind of like, I felt like we were the Three Stooges. They were all running and getting things. And I'm yelling, I need more water. They're like, we're trying to get it, Kris. And I wasn't so concerned that we really were going to lose a house or that kind of thing. But what I was amazed was that the teamwork, and that when you have people around you that are more mature in the Lord, and that's a key. We need to have people in our lives. I say three kinds of friends. And I recently wrote a Bible study called Intentional Relationships. And one of the chapters I talk about is three kinds of friends. You want to have friends that you pour into, you disciple, you grow, you mentor, whether you're a pastor, a teacher, a parent. And then you want to have people who pour into your life, right? You want to be discipled, and you'd be amazed how many people, Andy, have never, ever been discipled. Probably you know that. And then the ones that are balanced, the ones where the ball goes back and forth. And so often the people in our lives, the ball goes one way and never comes back. And we pour and pour and pour until we're empty, instead of making sure that there's a balance of people in our life so that we can keep doing what God's called us to do. And so I found out Saturday that I had a bunch of really healthy people that were helping me, and nobody made it about themselves. Nobody got upset. Nobody got angry. Nobody got afraid. And in fact, we were laughing and just said, they go, well, we'll remember this day. You know, we're never going to forget this bonfire. And I go, good.
You know, it's in the middle of crisis. And I often think of this when I worked as a crisis counselor and a suicide counselor, suicide hotline as a psychiatric nurse. I used to ask people when they would call in all frantic, want to end their life or other crisis, I would ask the question, well, what have you done in the past to be able to help you get through this? And crisis is not the time to have brand new revelation. It's time to go with what you know.
Yeah.
And when we're in the middle of crisis, that's why we pray up and read the Bible and do things before the crisis hits, so that when it's there, I'm going on what I know, and I know that I know that I know God's going to meet my needs according to his riches and glory.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. I tried to put out the fire myself. So when it first happened and it kind of moved over, I started trying to move the limbs. I started trying to move the leaves away, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it by myself. And so that's part of the issue. I think a lot of us, we try to fix it ourselves. And to a degree, we go to God, we spend time with God maybe, and God gives us a solution, and we go to the next level. But if we were meant to be in this life by ourselves, he would have stopped at Adam.
Yeah.
He designed us for community. And so he wants us to come together with others and share your life and learn from their life and help each other. Iron sharpens iron. And so I'm not saying you go to your friend first and then God, but I truly believe God will send you to people and vice versa. And so that's why building community is so important.
Absolutely.
Andy, I because I do a lot of singles ministry, I get asked all the time, why hasn't God brought me somebody? And I'm like, yeah, I'm looking for the same thing. You know anybody? And I just tell people, I said, listen, we're in a broken world, and I don't know that everybody's going to get married or married again. But I tell you one thing, we're all going to be in heaven single. You're not going to be married to your spouse on earth. And so I think the focus should be building relationships for the kingdom.
Yeah.
So, our purpose is a relationship with God that glorifies him, and out of that relationship, a relationship with others to bring them to Christ. And if one of them turns out to be a spouse, great. But what if they just be your friend?
Yeah.
And so to me, I really want the message when I'm out sharing and teaching is for them to know God has not forgotten you. He loves you. He wants to work in your life. He wants you to remember to come to him for everything. Even the littlest things, that I lost my keys, right? He wants you to be able to look at some of the struggles in this life and still be able to smile, but knowing that he's working in them. But he doesn't want you to get too comfortable, because this is not your home, and we need to stop unpacking our suitcases. This is not your kingdom. Have to tell other people about him. And a lot of times, Andy, they'll say, well, I can't talk to him like you can. Well, do you not have any friends? Do you not have any conversations with anybody? Tell them what Jesus did for you today. Did he get you up? Did he help you? Did he encourage you? That's where you start.
There's a couple things I want to say before we close. Depending on what platform you're watching this interview on, if you go to my Facebook page or my YouTube channel, you'll get the information down below either in the description or comment section about how you can get Kris's books, how you could get a hold of her for speaking at your event. You might even be surprised that she's working on a new book about the fire. I don't know. I heard a book in that whole discussion. Did you? And but look for that. Keep your eye on what she's doing and what she's done. And if you want to get her product, please be sure to get that. More important than that, after this interview is over, I want you to stop and take the time and pray for Kris, that God would continue to minister through her, and that God would bless her wherever she goes, all across the country, as she preaches the gospel through humor, and teaches the gospel of Christ, and her specialty that she has. Thank you so much for joining us for Morning Moments, Kris.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. And I'm going to ask you, if you would, keep coming back, and may God richly